Frostlass is a Pokemon that constantly keeps appearing in the wrong generation. It first debuted in Generation 4 while its Mega debuted in Generation 9. However, it should have debuted in Generation 3 and its Mega in Generation 8, as it looks and feels more like a Gigantamax form than a Mega. But that didn't happen. Why? Because Frostlass was actually too risky and inappropriate for the previous generations. For its initial debut, you may be questioning things, as the Ralts line received Gallade as a split evolution in Generation 4 when the rest of their line is from Generation 3. But if you were to ask most people, Gardevoir seems to be the natural evolution to Kirlia, whereas with the Snorunt family, Glalie definitely doesn't seem to be the natural evolution to Snorunt at all. Actually, neither Frostlass or Glalie seem to look like the natural evolution to Snorunt, but Frostlass, both in terms of design and more so in terms of lore, has the upper hand here. Snorunt's origins seem to be based on the Yuki-onna, Japanese snow spirits in the form of a child. More specifically, Snorunt seems to be based on the Yukinko, the child of another yokai named the Yuki-onna, which we will get to later. A yokai is any supernatural spirit, monster, or strange being in Japanese folklore, whereas an oni is a specific type of yokai, a demon ogre-like monster. Keep these two terms in mind. Snorunt's Pokédex entries also seem to suggest that it could be based on the Zashiki-warashi, mischievous yokai or spirits that bring fortune to families that it visits. Just like most other Pokemon, it has multiple origins, but Snorunt's origins here aren't that difficult to follow. Now let's take a look at Glalie. Glalie's main inspiration comes from the Sorobi Otoshi, a yokai that drops from trees to scare or unalive people walking below. Basically, it warns you not to travel alone and often targets children in this endeavor. Another inspiration for Glalie comes from the Namahage, a demon-like spirit that visits homes to scare lazy or misbehaving children into behaving better. It's meant to look scary, but actually it teaches children how to behave and be good. The inspirations of the Namahage appear on Glalie directly as not only scary looking, but the Namahage are demons portrayed by men wearing oni masks and straw capes, the Mino. And Snorunt is shown to be wearing the Mino or straw cape as well. So there is a correlation for Snorunt to evolve into Glalie here, and while both Snorunt and Glalie have something to do with children, with Glalie either growing up to scare or unalive the children, Snorunt and Glalie kind of look like they could be from different families altogether. Maybe that was a design choice and that's fine, but Frostlass is leagues ahead of Glalie. To me, Snorunt and Frostlass, while they also look like they could be from different families, makes more sense because the Mino that Snorunt wears obviously turns into the full-fledged kimono that Frostlass wears. On top of that, the connection from Snorunt to Frostlass is incredibly direct. Frostlass is based on the Yuki-onna, the exact same yokai that we mentioned when talking about Snorunt, because Snorunt's inspiration comes from the same yokai who are said to be the children of the Yuki-onna. And guess what? For the most part, that's about it. It's such a direct connection that I don't even need to get into what the Yuki-onna is to prove how simple of a connection it is. You want to know what else Glalie is based on? Hailstones, rice balls, and an ice hockey mask? Like what? Frostlass for sure should have been Snorunt's natural evolution. Yes, I know, only female Snorunts can evolve into Frostlass, but it makes no sense that Glalie came up before it, especially when all of the lore and inspirations were right there. It's almost like they made Snorunt and Frostlass and decided to move Frostlass over into Sinnoh for a debut, but kept Snorunt in the game and gave it a new evolution for the lack of ice types in Generation 3, which without Glalie, it's basically just Walrein and Regice, and Castform Ice, but who's really using this guy in their teams? But you know what you can use in your team of RPGs? New Monsters. New Monsters is a short and sweet Gen 1 style RPG that has been completely remade that you can get for just $10 on Steam. New Monsters is an RPG game similar to Pokemon, and they're celebrating their 5th anniversary by giving a free updated version of the game that's been completely remade from scratch. It's a cute RPG that's only made from 3 colors, blue, white, and black, and was remade using the Mon Tamer engine. It was the first ever game from Yunako RPGs, the developer of Dokkan Quest, so you know it's gonna be good. And those of you that have New Monsters already can simply update it and start playing it at no extra cost. The game will continue to be updated for free as needed, so if you're looking for a classic Gen 1 style Pokemon game that isn't too long to beat, definitely consider picking up New Monsters today. Thanks again to New Monsters for sponsoring this video. We know that the Gastrodon family was made for Gen 3, but saved for Gen 4, and that might be what happened with Frostlass because, well, Frostlass's inspirations of it being based on the Yuki-onna doesn't really fit with a region like Hoenn. It fits in a whole lot better with Sinnoh. Sinnoh being the region of myths and legends, it would make sense to save some more lore-heavy and lore-focused Pokemon for this region, and a lot of Pokemon with yokai origins came from this generation. But though Sinnoh had an influx of these Pokemon, it doesn't mean that this is where Pokemon based on yokai originated from. We've had these Pokemon in every generation prior to Gen 4 as well, so again, I'm led to question why Sinnoh? Well, the answers might be in the story of the Yuki-onna itself. The Yuki-onna is a beautiful and pale yokai that appears in blizzards and snowstorms to prey upon travelers, specifically men. Frostlass's 4 Gen 7 Dex entries even reference this. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, there's a story of a Frostlass marrying a human male and having children with him, and as you explore the side quest, you realize it's a near one-to-one retelling of a story of the Yuki-onna in the real world. As in both stories, the Frostlass of the Yuki-onna appeared before a lost traveler intending to prey on him, but seeing as how young and handsome he was, it spared him on the condition that he shouldn't speak of this encounter with anyone, and if he did, his life would no longer be spared. After this encounter, the man's life simply went on, and after a few years or so, this same man encounters a beautiful looking pale woman. So beautiful that he goes on to marry her and have children with her. It's only years after that their children are born that he stares at his wife and recollects this strange encounter that he had with the Yuki-onna, and proceeds to share it with his wife, who of course was Frostlass or the Yuki-onna. Enraged, the female spirit or Pokemon wishes to unalive their husband, but seeing as how they now have children, for their sake she spares him, but she vanishes never to be seen by him again. And so ends a tragic tale. But in the Pokemon world, this starts a whole new bloodline of people and our first and only confirmed race of human and Pokemon hybrids. I think this particular story, while it may have been the inspiration for Frostlass for generations now, was too dark for any game until Legends Arceus, which is why I think it was deliberately added in here, despite its Dex entries always hinting at these origins. But I also think that's why it was introduced in Generation 4 and not 3, for similar reasons of just being out of place or too dark for Pokemon until that point. You basically made the equivalent of the Pokemon Devil there in that generation, and a Pokemon that's haunting and draining kids in their nightmares all the time, so at this point, the stuff with Frostlass isn't anything too crazy. We even know with the Terra Leak that there were even crazier concepts of stories in Gen 4, like the Typhlosion lore story, which was a story about Typhlosion allegedly sleeping with a teenage girl, which no, that's not what happened, and if you want to know more about that story, you can check out my video here, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But this story was a lot more risky and dangerous for any other previous generation, but you can tell what they were trying to go for. Frostlass, being of a darker origin, probably got its debut in a more lore-heavy generation, and its main story comes out in Legends Arceus, the most appropriate time for everything dark about Pokemon being the old version of Sinnoh or Hisui. And then Legends ZA, it has room for a dark Mega Evolution, cause guess what? Despite looking entirely like a G-Max form, this Pokemon didn't make its debut in Sword and Shield. Why? There's a few instances of Gen 6 Mega Pokemon having counterpart pairs who didn't end up getting Mega Evolutions, so we always expect them to get Mega somewhere down the line. Mega Slowbro, for example, still doesn't have Mega Slowking, and similarly, Mega Beedrill, Mega Glalie at the time didn't have Mega Butterfree or Mega Frostlass. But to compensate for this, they gave Butterfree a G-Max form because the assumption was that Mega Pokemon would no longer be returning in the games. So it was very surprising when Frostlass didn't receive a G-Max form as well. And now looking at its Mega form, it's even more shocking because Mega Frostlass literally doubles in height, going from 4'3" to 8'6". It might be the biggest jump in height for any Mega Evolving Pokemon. And as we all know, a Gigantamax is all about its height. While Mega Glalie seems to come from the same set of inspirations as before, Mega Frostlass seems to also be based on the Snow Queen from the Western fairy tale, leading to the more regal and elegant tall design. But it's also based on the Take-onna, a tall female yokai. Both of these inspirations have the similarity of being tall, and yet it wasn't a G-Max form. I think they once again decided to wait for Legends Arceus for all the dark lore to come out, and then have whatever fun they wanted to have with Frostlass going forward, because they would have ripped the band-aid by then. Sword and Shield coming out before Legends Arceus I think is the only reason why we didn't see this form earlier, because since Legends Arceus, Frostlass has received an incredible piece of Pokemon lore that changes the way we see both people and Pokemon in that world. A very memorable side quest in those same games, a Mega Evolution, a Rogue Mega Battle, and a Legends ZA side quest with the same Frostlass that we defeated in the said battle. A side quest that seems to have Frostlass lean to the aspect of motherhood of it being a Yuki-onna, as it gives us a Dawnstone to evolve a female Snorunt into a Frostlass to ensure that we see the continuation of its species as it disappears before us. Or maybe this is the start of the player character's deadly encounter with Frostlass. Who knows? Either way, Frostlass is bringing a lot of love in every generation that has some level of darker undertones to it. But especially now with Legends Arceus and onwards, someone at Game Freak has been really pushing for this Pokemon, and honestly, I'm all for it, because whether it debuted in the wrong generation or not, this Pokemon has a lot of interesting stories surrounding it, and I'm hoping that we see a lot more.